Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, sir. Afternoon, sir.
We'll start at 5:50. Alright, let's start. Okay na kamutanan? Hello, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I already checked your attendance um, via the participants bar. So I just want to confirm Miss Gavin is still not here and Miss Mainar and Mr. Panizal not also here. So tatlo ang wala or late. Okay, let's start. Um, right. So okay, good evening or good afternoon. We will start our chapter 1 and I would like to thank first Miss April Joy Limpin for the PowerPoint. So let's get this going. Wait, start. Okay. So for our chapter overview, we will be discussing the development and basic concept of accounting, definition of accounting coined by different professional organizations of accountants, different users and their information, specialized accounting fields, business organization, professional values and ethics, generally accepted accounting principles and accounting assumptions. So next, for our learning objectives for today or for the 2 sessions, define accounting, discuss the importance of accounting, classify business organizations, discuss the roles of different public and private organizations that contributed to the development of accounting standards, enumerate the different areas where accountants could practice their profession, and define a CPA. So, an additional, enumerate the different users and uses of accounting, identify vocations in accounting, explain the basic professional values and ethics, differentiate the fields of accounting, differentiate types of business organizations, discuss generally accepted accounting principles, identify various accounting assumptions. So let's start our discussion with what is accounting. So class, I want your full attention for today. And sometimes I will be calling out your name to participate. So just be ready. And it's on random. So what is accounting? Accounting is defined by the Accounting Association or American Accounting Association in its statement of basic accounting theory, the process of identifying, measuring, and communicating economic information to permit informed judgment and decisions by users of the information. So there are major uh, things to consider in this definition that discusses what is accounting. So first is identifying. So what is identifying? It involves the recognition or non-recognition of business activities to be accounted for. So class, if madasigan ka mo or if I'm being too fast in discussing, just let me know. Okay? Identifying involves the recognition or non-recognition of business activities to be accounted for. So, um, for you class, what what do you what do you understand by that exact definition? So let's try to engage with participation. How about Miss Waniko? Are you there?
Excuse me. Yes, sir. Are you ready,
Uh,
sir?
Hi. So for you, just basing on the definition, how would you interpret identifying?
For me, sir, it's determined sa mga transaction records and recognition or non-recognition of business activities to be accounted for.
So,
Gimbasa ko lang.
all right. So to
Pero
elaborate,
para mag-determine lang sir sa mga transactions involved sa
okay,
business.
okay. So partly no, you're right. Why is it partly? Sa accounting, in accounting, we recognize, syempre, there are different business transactions, sales, expenses, and cash out and cash in. So we recognize if these are worth to be accounted for. Like for example, sales. Should I account for the sales? Yes, syempre, because to recognize that I have transacted a sale. Another is non-recognition. Non-recognition doesn't necessarily mean that I will check this business transaction and should I recognize this or not. Non-recognition means I will check this business transaction and should I by non-recognition should I remove it from my books. For example, we have a car. It is already recorded in our books for 10 years already because it is owned by the company. And after one certain point in time, the car that was used for almost 10 years already broke down and is not suitable for use anymore. Hindi na siya madrivean, it cannot be drove or it cannot be used for any business activities anymore. So with non-recognition and with identifying, we will say that this car should be non-recognized or removed from our books of accounts. So we will find an entry to eliminate that car, specific car in our books of accounts. You will further learn how the car becomes or how the car is involved in our books of accounts, how it is uh, entered in and how it will go out. So next, for the definition, measuring. It involves assigning of monetary amounts to the accountable economic transactions and events. So another one, Miss Estacio. How do you
Yes.
interpret this definition?
For me, sir, the measuring sa nga, yung accounting is about the currency, bala, sir.
You're right. You're right. So measuring is we are setting the type of currency. And it doesn't only mean that we will only set Philippine peso for accounting because sometimes we transact internationally. But um, when reporting your books of accounts, we need to report it in the common denomination or the common monetary um, sign that is used by the reporting country. So for example, if I want to report it in the Philippines, even though I have transactions internationally, I have to convert it to Philippine peso. That's why we have what do you call this? Uh, conversion rates. So that's for the measuring. And lastly, the another important thing or in the definition of the American Association of Accountants is communicating. So in communicating, it involves the preparation and distribution of accounting reports to potential users of accounting information. So what does this mean, Mr. Johnson?
Hello, sir. I'm audible, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, ang pagkakaintindi ko, sir, is the investors or the owners need to communicate from their creditors
How
between their decisions or
uh,
just ganun, sir. Parang ganun yung thought ko and idea towards that.
okay. So that's based on your understanding and you're partly correct also. So to further elaborate, communicating, when accountants communicate, they don't exactly communicate by words, but they communicate by statements, statements of financial position, or how is my company is doing for today. That is my financial position or the income statement. How did my company operated for one whole year? How is it going in terms of income? So that's how an accountant communicates. So with this, the three important activities of accounting based on the American Accounting Association as defined is identifying. I need to identify if this transaction is recognizable or this transaction should not be recognized anymore. I need to measure it. I need to set a monetary amount. And lastly, I need to communicate it by preparing a report and making it a report that this is one very important key class. The way we communicate, it should be clear that it would be understood by our users. Because if it won't be understood by our potential users, it is no use. There's no use in communicating anymore if you only understand it. And it's not only applicable to accounting, but in all cases of life. So let's go to the next slide. Thank you for the three of you and participating. So there is another definition based on from the Committee on Accounting Terminology of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants or the AICPA. So the committee states that accounting has an art of recording, classifying, summarizing in a significant manner and in terms of money transactions and events which are in part at least of a financial character and interpreting the results thereof. Based on this definition, there are four mechanical phases in accounting process, namely recording or journalizing, classifying, summarizing, and interpreting. So So let's further discuss the four mechanical process of accounting. Recording, also known as journalizing, involves the routine and mechanical process of committing to writing business transactions and events on the books of accounts in chronological sequence in accordance with the GAAP. So does this sound familiar? How about, let's try to ask if this sounds familiar. Mr. Constantino.
Yes, sir.
Oo. Does recording sounds familiar from our previous three definition by the AAA? Sa ano siya nga aspect naging familiar or naging similar? So bali, let me continue na lang. So bali Mr. Constantino, naging familiar or naging similar si recording in what do you call this? In identifying and measuring. So this is the mix of both identifying and measuring is actually journalizing. So before we journalize an item, we first must identify it if it should be recognized in our books of accounts or not recognized. Then we set a certain measurement or monetary amount. Kung tagpila siya, how much should it be recorded for, how much should it be inputted in our journals. So next, classifying. Classifying involves the sorting or grouping of similar items into their respective kinds, process of posting the information from journal to the ledger. Summarizing involves the determination of the balances, each account in the ledger, and the preparation of financial statements such as statement of comprehensive income, statement of financial position, statement of changes in equity, and interpreting. Analytical phase of accounting involves giving meaning to the amounts, ratio, trends, and other information derived from the financial statements. So these three is also similar to AAA. And on what aspect is it similar? Miss Miss so Miss Miss Over.
Yes, sir.
In what aspect
So,
is this three similar to the previous definition?
it is similar to the previous definition provided by the AAA because it is the processing and at the same time the identifying is involved. Therefore, accountants used to recognize if it should be included on the statement of account or not.
So you're partly correct. Partly why? Because you forgot to mention communicating. So, 'di ba, I've already discussed earlier that when we communicate, we must ensure that what we communicate should be also understood by the users. So with this, we have to classify the types of accounts or the types of accounts that we have journalized. We have to also, after classifying it, meaning we sort it, if it's similar or if it's not, then we summarize it. We go into totals and make a statement. And lastly, our users will interpret it or we will help them understand by guiding them in interpreting the statements that we have provided. So thank you for the both of you for participating. So there is another definition from the Philippine Accounting Standards Council. So Ari, ano na siya? What do you call this? Local definition. Because earlier it was both defined by the Americans. Now this is defined by our council in the Philippines. Accounting is a service activity. Its function is to provide quantitative information, primarily financial in nature, about economic entities that is intended to be useful in making economic decisions, in making reasoned choices among alternative courses of action. So for this, for our Philippine accounting standard, the major thing is it is a service activity. It is a service activity that we as accountants provide service for. And the function of this service is to provide quantitative information. Why is it that we have to provide quantitative, not qualitative? Miss Superior. Miss Superior, are you here? I'm afraid she's not here. Miss Kahilig, Sino to? Okay, Miss Superior. Yes, go.
Quantitative because you can measure such as revenue, expenses, and profit margins and taxes.
Okay, so may follow-up account ko. Follow-up question. Does accounting only provide quantitative information? Do they? Quantitative lang? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
In a way, it's a qualified yes. Siyempre, we aim to provide quantitative information because the main reason of accounting is to know how our business activities in terms of monetary amounts is used. But sometimes it gives us also qualitative information, like how good the quality of our services is done, and sometimes how good is the quality of our processes. So in a way, yes, and in a way, no. So that is it for the Philippine Accounting Standards. So again, service activity siya. We provide services, and its function is to provide quantitative and primarily financial in nature about economic entities, meaning businesses, that is intended to be useful in making economic decisions. So we cannot decide without any statements because there is no reasoned choices if there is no background or historical background. All right? So that's why making reasoned choices gid siya. So Venetian approach to record keeping, I'll just go through this. There was this monk and mathematician, Luca Pacioli, and he is named the father of accounting because through his book, the succeeding generations were informed of the existence of double entry bookkeeping and were able to make improvements on the system. So, how come he is not the inventor of double entry bookkeeping? Miss Poblacion, how come?
Yes, sir. Question.
How come Luca Pacioli, known as the father of accounting, is not the inventor of double entry bookkeeping?
I don't have further information about it.
Actually, it's here in the slide. So it says, through his book, the succeeding generations were informed of the existence. He only informed us that double entry bookkeeping exists. So that's why Luca Pacioli, even though he's the father of accounting, he did not invent double entry bookkeeping. So he just discovered it, not invented it. So I don't know if it's technically right to use that term. But thank you for participating. So this is a bit of history. I'll just skip this part. Okay, before I skip this part, why is it called the double entry bookkeeping? Because in accounting, when we account or when we journalize a transaction, we make two types of entries, a debit and a credit. So it doesn't mean if it's double entry bookkeeping, only two lines are used because sometimes there are many sides for the on the debit side and there are many sides on the credit side. So you will further understand what is debit and what is credit as we go through this chapter. Okay? So why is accounting important? So accounting plays a major role in the attainment of the company's goals and objectives. So how come? How come does accounting play a major role in such? Miss Pagnamitan? Hello, Miss Pagnamitan, are you there?
Sir?
Uh, how come accounting plays a major role in the attainment of the company's goals and objectives?
Uh, because accounting, sir, can help in planning, choosing the course of action that a company could make that will lead them to their goals and objectives if the said course of action will provide them what do you call that will provide them the
Kumbudlay Ilonggo ka.
will provide them, sir, ang needs ng nga funds or resources para sa company the sir.
Okay, so in a way, your interpretation is correct, no? I agree with that. With the help of accounting, knowing that it will provide us with statements, it can help us in judging our course of action. What will we do next? Will this action lead to our company's achievement of those goals and objectives? So, accounting will well, partly our goals and objectives are quantitative. So accounting also provides quantitative information. So it just merely reflects if we reach that or we reach such goal and objective. So accounting also plays a vital role in running a business because it helps you track income and expenditures, ensure statutory compliance, and provide investors, management, and government with the quantitative financial information which can be used in making decisions. So ang point man lang is it provides us with quantitative financial information, and after interpreting it, we can make decisions as long that accounting is done correctly. So here are certain aspects where accounting is important with. So even in law, accounting is important. In gardening, accounting is important, construction, and other forms of aspect. So in law, for example, accounting is important because one subject in law is taxation. And also, we need to account, or sometimes there are civil cases, meaning one type of civil case is your obligations, and sometimes those obligation involves money. So in accounting, we can help the law by providing them a proper estimate if it a proper estimate of the damages, and also we can provide them of the certain transaction that has been done with both the parties. So in other aspects like gardening, pharmaceuticals, and construction, accounting can help in providing inventory, how we maintain our inventory system so that we won't be short of tools, of medicines, and we won't be short of things that will be used in gardening. So accounting is really already a part of life. So let's skip this. So let's go to the users of financial information. So there are two types of users. First are the primary users, which includes existing and potential investors, and lenders and other creditors. So how come these two users are considered as primary users? Miss Jeronimo. Class, if naka-recite na mo for today, just let me know so I can pick another. Honest to goodness lang. Miss Jeronimo, are you there? Oh, she's not there. Miss Calero. Are you there? Calero?
Yes, sir. Kalaro,
Oo.
sir.
Oo, Calero.
Padaliwat mo maliwat ang
Ang question.
question, sir.
No problem. How come the two types of users are considered primary users? And just your own interpretation.
Based man sir sa imo nga PowerPoint, it exists of uh, investors and lenders. So in order ang investors makagain kang in order makagain sandas ang ilang benta.
Sure.
For example, benta, they need a lender para para makagain man ang lenders ang ilang kwarta. Something like that.
Mm. That's a good perspective, no? Actually, these two are considered primary users because our statements or our reports are actually designed for them. Designed for them, why? For example, for our existing and potential investors, we provide them with reports so that they can read it, understand our business, and decide if we are truly worth investing for. Siyempre, we can't deal with business without certain investors or capitalists. So kinahanglan ang money to go on with business. That's why we most especially make our statements or our reports for them. And also for our lenders and other creditors, it's also with regards to funding. So sometimes if we can't find investors that wants to be a part of our company, we can find lenders or creditors that wants to give us money even though they don't want to be a part of our company. So we also provide them with statements of any type of statement that an accountant provides so that they can decide if we are worth their time in providing money or lending money. So that's why they are the primary users. The reports are essentially made for them. So next, other users. So this is the second branch. Other users such as employees, customers, government and their agencies, and the public. So how come they are other users? Miss Umayaw? Miss Umayaw, are you there? Miss Villarubia? Are you there? Miss Nicole?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Miss Umayaw. So how come, di ba may primary users na ta? How come they are the so-called other users, even the government? Why are they the other users?
They are the other users, sir, because they also transact. Example, they buy in some business store, and it involves sir, money.
Oo. So, in a way, okay man siya nga answer. So to give it a more clear answer, no, other users are these types of users can still use our reports because accountants or the main goal of accounting is again identify if this is really worth accounting for, measure setting monetary amounts, and most of all communicate, meaning preparation of reports, classifying it, sorting it, and interpreting the reports. So after preparation of the reports for the investors and lenders, sometimes our employees also want to know what is the status of our business. If they want to commit long term to this business, they also want to know the status by knowing our statements of accounts or statements or financial statements. Same with our customers. Sometimes our customers treat us as suppliers and they want to know if we can still supply them with enough raw materials or anything that they need. Next, government, because again, last time, as we talked about, Without taxes, the government can't move. So even though the government requires us to pay tax, they are just only considered other users because our financial statements are not tailor-made for them. So they are not the main purpose why we make our financial statements. And the public, if I just want to know how Nike is doing business, I can just check their financial statements through the stock exchange. All right? So that is for our users of financial information. So sa exercise, this by far, this exercise in a way can be answered because you already have the answer in your PowerPoint if you've downloaded it. So if not, so let's try. But makita nyo naman nagali sa inyo PowerPoint, so what's the point? So for investors, they need, or the users of information, they need to assess the ability of the entity to pay dividends. What is dividends? That is their return on their investment. So syempre, if we want to invest to a business, dapat may balik man ta. And sometimes they won't give the total money back immediately. So they will pay us dividends as part of their income. So it's just small amounts that will be given to the investor as long as they have shares or they have money inside the business. Creditors assess whether their loans as well as the related interest can be collected by them when due. So again, as I've discussed earlier, if the creditors would need or would use our information if they want to know if we are worth their time and money when they are lending it to us, and we won't turn out to not pay them at all if that's the case. So employees assess the ability of the enterprise to provide remuneration and retirement benefits. So again, to know if they can do long term with their employers, the employees can use the information so that they know if the employer can still provide their remuneration or pay and their future retirement benefits. Customers, to determine the continuance of the enterprise, especially when they have a long-term involvement or are dependent on the enterprise. Government, regulate the activities of the enterprise and determine the appropriate taxation policies. So when we talk about accounting and government, we talk about tax. And the public, determine the trends and range of activities of the organization, right? So there are certain business organizations, 4 to be exact. So first is the sole proprietorship. So sole proprietorship meaning sole, single ownership. He's the only owner. It doesn't mean he's the only one in the business. Ha? May employees man siya, but he owns 100% of the business. Everything that is used or everything that will be paid, maagi anay siya. It will go through him. Every decision will go through him because he's the sole owner and because he's the most affected person when anything goes wrong. One-man control, he controls everything. She or she, no? He or she will control everything. Unlimited liability. What does unlimited liability mean? Try ta? Miss Pagunsan? Naka-recite ka na? Miss Pagunsan?
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Naka-recite ka na kagina? Wala pa man.
Not yet, sir.
Okay. So, how come when we talk about sole proprietorship, it is unlimited liability? Based on just your understanding, why is it unlimited liability? Kitungod pala utang siya.
Hello, hello sir. Am I
Ah, ah.
audible?
Oh, yes, you are.
I think, sir, it's because unlimited liability. Because as stated, sole proprietorship. So, he or she or the owner of the business is only one person. So, he or she has the full responsibility for all his or her business debts.
Mhm.
I think
Okay.
that's
So, in a way, that's right. Because he's the sole proprietorship, or it's a sole proprietorship, he's the only single owner. But um, if you look at your PowerPoint in the partnership, these can be two partners or many partners. They also have unlimited liability. So how come single isa lang ang tag-iya? How come one owner, unlimited liability, partnership, 2, 3, 4, 5 can be considered a partnership also? How come unlimited liability? They are also part or having unlimited liability. So unlimited liability doesn't mean he is the only one responsible, but it means that the if the business goes down and he still has liability, or if the business cannot cover any more debts after selling everything they sold, for example their car, their machines, but still there is a certain amount of debt remaining, debt meaning utang, um any debtor, any creditor ang nagpautang, any creditor can chase the single owner, even if it means taking their own personal property. So meaning, if I'm a sole proprietor and if my business can cover my debts, I need to find a way to sell everything that I also have just to pay my creditors. So that's what it means to have unlimited liability. Even your personal life can be in danger when the business goes down. So again, with a partnership, it doesn't mean only two. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. As long as it's registered as a partnership, there are certain partners, and there should be one managing partner, meaning he's the head of all the partners. Everything that he does should also be reflected as the action of the partners. So he is the one managing the partnership or the business. So in a partnership, there is also unlimited liability. So this, for us professionals or for us accountants, this is the only maximum level of business we can do. We can only do sole proprietorship and partnership if we're practicing accounting. And any other professionals, meaning not professional nga work, but professional meaning exercising their profession, like engineers, architects, and so on and so forth, they can only be limited to a partnership. No more, no less. They can be also a sole proprietor, but they cannot be a corporation or a cooperative. So again, unlimited liability, meaning if the business goes down, their personal life will be involved or can be involved in paying the debts or just meeting the debts of the business. Business organization, corporation. It is made by operation of law. It is governed by either board of director or board of trustees, and it has limited liabilities. So how come it is very important to note that it is made by operation of law? Miss sino pa man? Miss Marcito?
Yes, sir. Ano ulit ang question?
How come important ang operation of law sa pag-set up ka corporation?
Ano,
Hmm.
para sir, ano, ang,
So, ayun na lang. Can you consider a corporation as a person?
no sir, tidaan damo sila sir.
Damo sila. Alright. Sige. So actually, you cannot consider a corporation in a way as a true person, but you can consider it as a juridical person. Juridical meaning with the help of the law acknowledges him as a single person. So meaning, if I am a corporation, I am also a person acknowledged by the law. So pwede mo ko makasuhan, but hindi pwede mo ko makasuhan as a corporation. Like for example, SM, if may sala si SM sakon, if SM makes a mistake, I can sue SM, not the board of directors, not the board of trustees, but SM. But if sole proprietor, you can sue the single owner. And if partnership, you can also sue the partnership because a partnership is also a juridical person, but you can also sue the partners. And how come limited liability na ang corporation? How come? Miss Andrade, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Oo.
Um,
Based on
limit,
may explanation kagina with the unlimited liabilities, how come ang corporation limited na?
because sir, a corporation is not a person. So, so when the business goes down, hindi nadadama yung ibang yung board of director and trustees, for example. Hindi na sila
Okay.
nadadamay.
Okay. So actually, in a way, with the operation of law, the corporation becomes a person itself. So meaning, if anything goes down, the corporation will pay for itself like a sole proprietor. But it does not mean that any board of director or shareholder will be liable for it. The corporation only will be liable for it. So that's why it is limited in liabilities. So meaning, yung corporation, parang siya yung sole proprietor. Kasi ina-acknowledge na siya ng law na siya yung person talaga. So next or the last type of business organization is the cooperatives. It is also made or acknowledged or made by operation of law, board of directors, and limited liabilities. So how come it's like a cooperative is not the same with a corporation. In what way? Mr. Ermeo? Mr. Ermeo? Are you there? Wala.
Ari ko to sir, dali lang dito
Ah,
yung nawag. Sorry.
So what is the difference between a corporation and a cooperative? For you lang. Based on your understanding, kay in a way they have the same type of or class of how it is built by operation of law. They have the same governing board of directors and they are also limited in liabilities.
Sa akin sir, kaya ang cooperative sir is an association sir of individuals. Just like sir sa CPO, ang mga teachers sir may mga ang cooperative, hindi para sa corporation sir nga may legal counsel sila sir.
Okay, so you're right. That's in a way right. And another vital aspect in a cooperative, there's no chance for one person to take every decision. How can we say that there's no chance? Because in a cooperative they also have shares. And there is only a limited amount of share one person can have. But in a corporation, I can have 97% of the shares, and I can just provide my other board of directors 1% of each share. So anything that I don't agree with, I can override it with the power of my shares. So that's also one significant difference between a cooperative, because they need to cooperate rather than a corporation. So also that's right. It's also an association. And most of our PUJs now here in Iloilo is run by a cooperative. Most or almost most of all. So again, here's the distinctions between types of business organization. Sole proprietorship, the manner of creation is dependent on the will of one person. Partnership, created by mere agreement. So I cannot make a sole proprietorship if I don't want to. I cannot make a partnership if someone doesn't agree with me. I cannot make a corporation if I cannot be acknowledged by law. Same with the cooperative. So number of organizers and incorporators. For sole proprietorship, I only need one. For partnership, at least two. So meaning it is not only limited to two persons. It just needs a minimum of two persons to set up a partnership. A corporation, any person, partnership, association, or corporation singly or jointly with others but not more than 15 in number may organize a corporation for any lawful purpose. But now, and there is an existing or there is a law that was made that acknowledges a one-person corporation. How come this law was made? Sino pong wala ka-recite? Mr. JV Bison, are you there?
Sir,
How come that
sorry for
there
the
is
background
already...
noise, sir. Ka-travel ako, ate.
Okay. Sige, lain na lang.
Question, sir.
Okay. How come nga may sole proprietor na, but there is also a chance to build a one-person corporation? So it's just the same with a sole proprietor. Why is the law allowing it now? In just your own understanding.
Again, sir. A sole proprietor, again, sir.
A sole proprietor, only one person needs to make a sole proprietorship. But in a corporation, it needs to be 15, but now, it doesn't mean it needs to be 15, but at least 5 yan noon eh. So ngayon, bakit dapat isa na lang? And pwede kahit isa na lang, I mean. Just in your own understanding.
Pastor, I cannot hear clearly the question, sir. Sorry.
Okay. Sige. I'll just discuss why. No? Thank you for trying. So a corporation, in a way, in one way is limited in liability. And sometimes a person that wants to build a business and it's big enough to be a corporation also wants a limited liability, what do you call this? Limited liability clause. So the law just allowed a one-person corporation because sometimes, actually, in the past, when they're making a corporation, it needs to be at least 5 people to be the incorporators. But in practice, there are persons that, for example, me and my friend wants to build a corporation and we're only 2 persons. So we do not qualify in making a corporation. So what we do now is we find other friends and just give them 1% of the shares just to complete that clause to make a corporation and maintain the 97% to me and my friend, so we can control the corporation's decision. So that's the difference now why a one-person corporation, because practice or in terms of practice made the minimum 5 persons useless because there are many ghost incorporators. For a cooperative, there should be at least 15 persons. So meaning number of organizers lang or incorporators ito ha. It doesn't mean that a cooperative is limited to 15 persons. In just establishing the cooperative, it should be at least 15 persons, but as days go by, as business go by, they can add a number of cooperatives or shareholders. For sole proprietor in charge of managing the business, it is usually the sole proprietor. For the partnership, sometimes both the partners or all the partners, and sometimes the managing partner for ease of doing business. In a corporation, the board of directors or board of trustees. So class, just note, if we are using the term board of directors, it means it is a corporation with shares. It is a stock corporation. Stock, S-T-O-C-K. So it has stocks in it. So it has shares. But for board of trustees, meaning it is a non-stock corporation, like for example, CPU, it is just governed by the members or built by the members. So meaning board of trustees, we just vote for the members we trust the most to make the decisions. And for the OPC, the single stockholder will be the sole director. It's like a sole proprietorship. So for a cooperative, there's no board of trustees because everyone has shares or shares of stock. A sole proprietorship, right of succession. What does this mean? It means that if the person dies, it can still go on. Or if the person doesn't want to do it anymore, a sole proprietorship can still go on. So for a sole proprietorship, if I don't want to do it anymore or if I die, there is no right of succession. Meaning the sole proprietorship will end at the point that I don't want to continue my business or at the point that when I will die. Same with a partnership. If all the partners die or don't want to continue the partnership anymore, the partnership is assumed to be ended already. But for the corporation, it has the right of succession because it is governed not by people but by board of directors, and it is controlled by shares of stock. So you can buy a share of stock, and if you don't want to do it anymore, you can sell your share of stock to another shareholder. And same with the cooperative. So again, with the extent of liability to a third person, sole proprietorship, unlimited, partnership, unlimited, corporation, and cooperative, limited. Term of existence, dependent of the will of the owner, ang sole proprietorship. The sole proprietorship is dependent on if the owner dies or the owner doesn't want to do it anymore. So if either of those conditions meet, the term of existence is ended. Same with the partnership. So it is based on the life set by the partners. So in a partnership, you can set actually a life. Like for example, I just want this partnership to go on for 10 years. So after 10 years, we either continue the partnership, so we make a new partnership, or we end it. Corporation, perpetual existence, meaning it goes on and on until a lifetime or until everyone dies. So with a corporation, there is forever. No? For a cooperative, maximum life of 50 years and renewable for another 50 years. In essence, it can also last forever, but there is a renewance of, or we need to renew the cooperative. So it's just a formality. So requirement by SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, none for our sole proprietorship. For the partnership, co-partnership, articles of co-partnership. For the corporation, articles of incorporation. And for cooperation, cooperatives, articles of cooperation. Wait. So let me discuss last 4 slides for today. Wait lang class. Trying to get to those slides. So we will be on our last 4 slides for today. We will be discussing about the types of business entities. So there is a business organization, meaning how is it organized, and business entity, what or nature of the business, how is the business doing business. So business firms may be classified according to their nature. So service concern. So for service concern, this business is actually aimed in providing services to their customers. Wait a minute. So recitation, can you give a service concern type of business? Miss Gavin? Miss Gavin, are you there?
Sir, good evening.
Ka-recite ka na? Wala pa?
Wala pa, sir.
Can you provide at least 2 service concern businesses? Its aim is to provide service to their customers. Makita mo naman na daw. So what is a service concern type of business? Any type.
Example, sir, mga independent distributors, sir. Or
And then, go. They provide service,
Yes, sir.
That's their product service. They don't have a product, but they provide service. So for a distributor, you're right.
Yes, sir.
They provide logistics.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
Next. Last. One more. You can either pick in the pictures also.
Sir, shop.
Okay, so another example, or I'll just discuss the pictures na lang. A doctor, they provide service by checkups and by providing health advice. Salon, by manicure, pedicure, hair, spa, etc. Repairs for the mechanics. And lawyers, they advise you what course of action to do in terms of law. So there are 4 types of business firms, if I can recall it correctly. So the second is a merchandising. It's either 3 or 4. So merchandising, this nature of business sells or provides merchandise to their customers. So Miss Asong, have you already participated for today?
No, sir.
Okay. So can you give 2 examples of merchandising businesses?
example, sir, mga clothing lines bala, sir, sa mga clothing stores
Yeah,
and also
that's right.
supermarkets.
Yeah, that's right. So those are two examples based on the pictures also. Supermarkets, SM, Robinsons, same with the clothing line, Uniqlo, Pen Shop. So those are merchandising firms because they provide their customers with a merchandise. So next is a manufacturing firm. They still provide their customers with merchandise, but they produce it. So the difference between a merchandising firm and a manufacturing firm is the manufacturing from scratch produce their products and sell it. While for a merchandising firm, they only buy the finished products, which comes from manufacturing firms. So can you give two examples of a manufacturing firm? Miss Poblacion, have you already participated? Miss Poblacion?
Sir,
Oo.
example, sir.
Oo, example.
Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola, sir.
Pepsi. Oo. So
Diba?
that's right, actually. They produce their products, then they... So excuse ng connect class, ha? Someone's calling. Sorry, class. May nagtawag, no? So that's for the manufacturing firm. It makes their product from scratch or from the raw materials, then provides it to their customers as a form of also a merchandise or finished goods. And lastly, the business firm. A last business firm that we will be discussing is agriculture. So it is involved with crops and poultry, piggery, anything that is considered to be part of the agriculture industry. So, sino pa ang wala I guess okay naman. Miss Palmes, and you provide two types of agricultural businesses. Miss Palmes? Wala si Miss Palmes. So, the two types of agricultural businesses, piggery, poultry, also crops like coffee. That's also an agricultural form of business. So that's it for today, class. I know you're all hungry and you don't have class tomorrow. So I know you're excited to rest for today. So I will not be leaving any assignments for today. Just read in advance our PowerPoint that where we left off for now. And that is all. For anyone that came in late, just let me know. Okay? Bye, class.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Goodbye,
you,
sir.
sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Thank you,
po.
sir. Bye, sir.